December 1876. The Dakota Prairie, a sea of white stretching to the curve of the earth, wind moving across it like something searching. A single thread of smoke rises from a hillside. Thin, stubborn, wrong, because there is no house there. The camera moves closer, past the buried fence posts, past the cottonwoods bent sideways by years of weather, to a door, set into the hill itself, heavy, cottonwood plank, leather hinges stiff with frost. Inside, a candle burns on a wooden table. The walls are warm, the walls are earth. A young woman sits beside the candle, 16 years old, wool coat unbuttoned, a black leather Bible open in her lap, her finger resting on a verse her mother underlined long ago. Outside, the thermometer has stopped reading. A trapper rode by 3 days ago, told her to leave, told her the storm coming would kill people. She thanked him. She stayed. And in 36 hours, 4 of her neighbors will be dead. I'll rewrite the complete story with all corrections applied. Let me work through this carefully. December 24th, 1876, 3 miles south of what would become Yankton. Outside, 19 below zero. The wind, a living thing, screaming across the prairie like it was looking for someone to kill. Inside the dugout, 64 degrees, steady. Astrid Lindqvist sat on a wooden stool, 16 years old, her wool coat unbuttoned because she was warm, actually warm, for the first time in months. The candle on the table flickered, cast long shadows on the sod walls. She held a book in her lap, her mother's Swedish Bible, black leather, cracked at the spine, the pages soft from 20 years of being held. She opened it to the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 2. Read out loud, quietly, to no one. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. She stopped, read the verse again, in a cave. They put him in a cave. Her mother had underlined that verse, years ago. The ink faded now, but the line's still there, steady, like her mother's hand, like everything her mother had done. Astrid closed her eyes. A small sound escaped her. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sob, because the trapper had warned her 3 days ago. Said the blizzard would come in 36 hours, said it would kill people, said she should leave, find a real house, a real family, stop pretending. She had thanked him, stayed put, and now she sat in a hole in the ground, on Christmas Eve, with her mother's Bible, and a candle, and the storm coming. She should have been afraid. She wasn't, because something her mother said years ago kept coming back to her. The Lord doesn't always shelter us from the storm. Sometimes he builds the shelter through us. Sometimes we are the ark. Astrid touched the wall behind her. Warm. The earth was warm. She smiled and waited. To understand how a 16-year-old girl came to be sitting alone in a hillside on Christmas Eve, with 4 people about to die within 5 miles of her door, we have to go back. 5 months earlier, July 1876, a small claim shack near the Missouri River, 2 rooms, tin roof, the kind of place men built when they didn't expect women to live in them. Astrid's mother lay dying. Birgitta Lindqvist, 41 years old, once strong enough to carry a 50-pound sack of flour 2 miles in winter, now reduced to 90 pounds, her hair gone silver in 3 weeks. Cholera. That's what they called it. That's what the doctor wrote down. But cholera doesn't take a year to kill you. Cholera takes 3 days, maybe a week. Birgitta had been dying for years. She just hadn't told anyone. Astrid sat by the bed, held her mother's hand. The hand felt like paper now, like something that had already left. Mama. Astrid, don't. Listen to me. The girl leaned in, 16 years old, trying not to cry, failing. The Bible, her mother said. When you feel alone, open it, page by page. The Lord is in there. I am in there. Mama, please. Promise me. I promise. Her mother smiled, a small smile, crooked, like she knew something. He has prepared a place for you. I just helped him a little. Astrid didn't understand. She thought it was the dying talking, the fever talking, the way people talk when they're already half across. She would understand later. She would understand exactly later. Birgitta closed her eyes. She did not open them again. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Hot. The grass dried to straw. The pastor said the proper words. Astrid did not hear them. Her stepfather stood beside her. Oscar Brandt, 45 years old, beard the color of dirty rope. His face arranged into something that looked like grief. Astrid knew better. She had known better for a long time. But she was 16, and she had no one. And she did not yet have the words for the things she had seen. So she stood next to him, wore black, said amen when the pastor said amen, and waited. 6 months passed, 6 months of Oscar getting quieter, then louder, then quiet again. The cycle of a man who is planning something. In January, he started bringing a woman to the house. Ingeborg, 31, from Iowa. She had a laugh like a bell, and eyes that looked through Astrid the way you'd look through a window you wanted cleaned. In February, Oscar married her, 8 months after Birgitta's grave was filled. 8 months. Astrid did the math in her head one night, lying in the loft above the kitchen, listening to the new wife laugh. 8 months means he started writing her in October. October. 2 months after Mama was buried. Or earlier. Maybe much earlier. Astrid pressed her face into the straw mattress and did not make a sound. The conversation that ended her life in that house happened on a Saturday in late October. The kitchen smelled like rancid bacon. Ingeborg had burned breakfast again. She always burned breakfast. She did not care about cooking. She did not care about Astrid. She did not care about much. Oscar sat at the table, tapped his finger on the wood. 3 times. Stopped. 3 times again. Sit down, girl. Astrid sat. There's a man in Sioux Falls, widower, hardware store, 47, looking for a wife. Astrid did not move. His first one died of a fever. He has 3 children, needs a young woman who can raise them up. Still nothing. He wrote me last week. He'll take you. Astrid heard her own breathing, loud in her own ears, like someone breathing into a cup. I'm 16. You're old enough. I won't. You will. Or what? Her stepfather looked at her then. Looked at her the way a man looks at a horse he has decided to sell. Calculating. A little tired. Or you leave. Tonight. That was Ingeborg. From the doorway, arms crossed. Belle laughed nowhere now. Tonight you leave, Ingeborg said. Or you sign the papers. Astrid stood up. She did not say anything. She walked to the small room where she slept. She put her mother's Bible in a leather satchel. She put a change of clothes. She put a tin cup. She put the small wooden cross her mother had carved when Astrid was 7, and she walked out the door. Oscar did not follow. Ingeborg did not call after her. The door closed. The latch fell. Astrid was outside. She was 16 years old. She had nowhere to go, and the prairie stretched out around her like a sea that had forgotten how to move. She walked for 2 hours, until the moon was full up, until her feet hurt, until she could not feel her hands. Then she sat down beside a cottonwood tree, and she opened the Bible, because her mother had told her to, because she had nothing else. She opened it to the middle. A piece of paper fell out. Then another, then a small flat square that was money, folded tight. Astrid stared. She picked up the first paper, held it close to her face. The moon helped a little. It was a drawing of a house, but not a house. A cross-section, a side view. A house cut in half so you could see what was inside. Except it wasn't a house. It was a hill. And inside the hill was a room. And inside the room was a stove, and a chimney, and measurements. 8 feet, 12 feet, 16 feet. In her mother's hand. The neat, clean hand that had written every recipe she'd ever made. Every letter to relatives in Sweden. Every name in the family Bible. Astrid picked up the second paper. Another drawing. Closer up. A wall. Thick. Made of something labeled torv. Sod. With measurements next to it. about 28 inches at the base, 20 inches at the top, and a note, underlined twice. The earth holds heat. The earth is a gift. Build into it, daughter. Astrid looked at the money. She counted it. Nearly $300 in coins and worn bills. Some of it the kind of money you would only have if you saved it for years. Quarters from selling eggs, dimes from selling butter. Two larger bills folded into squares so small they were almost coins themselves. Astrid sat under the cottonwood for a long time, did not move, because her mother had known. Her mother had known. Years before she died, her mother had known what was coming, had known Oscar, had known Ingeborg, had known the proposal from a 47-year-old widower, had known that one day her daughter would stand at the edge of nowhere with a satchel and no future. And her mother had drawn her a house. There were small notes in the margins about the cousin's farm in the next county, about visits, about money saved a coin at a time over 12 years, hidden in a tea tin, then under a floorboard, then sewn into the lining of a winter coat Oscar would never touch. Her mother had visited those cousins every summer, 2 weeks, sometimes 3. Oscar had thought nothing of it. He had thought wrong. Astrid pressed the Bible to her chest. She did not cry. She had cried already, months of crying. The crying was used up. What came instead was something quieter, something harder, something that felt like a hand on her back. Her mother's hand, pushing her forward. She stood up. She walked north. She did not look back. It took her 3 days to reach Yankton. 3 days of walking, sleeping in barns when she could find them, eating bread and dried apples from her satchel, drinking from creeks. She did not look like a girl in trouble. She looked like a girl on an errand. That was a thing her mother had taught her, long ago, without ever quite saying it. If you look like you know where you are going, people will leave you alone. So she walked, and on the 3rd day she found the land office, a small wooden building, 1 room, a potbelly stove, a clerk behind a desk, old, bald, spectacles down on his nose. He looked up when she came in. "Help you. I want to file a claim." He blinked. "You by yourself?" "Yes, sir." "How old?" "Old enough." He almost smiled. Almost. "What's your name, child?" "I, Lindqvist." He wrote that down. "I, Lindqvist." Then he looked at her again. "What's the I for?" She hesitated. Because the law was complicated. Because women could file under the Homestead Act if they were single heads of household. Because she was a minor. Because she did not want him asking. "Inga," she said. In Sweden, every girl carried 2 names. The one for the church, the one for the family. Inga was her church name, her baptismal name, the one her mother's mother had carried before her. Astrid was the name her mother had called her. Every day of her life. From the first cry, she would be Inga on paper. She would be Astrid in the heart. The clerk wrote it down. Then he stopped. His pen hovered. "Lindqvist." "Yes, sir." "Your mother, was her name Birgitta Lindqvist?" Astrid froze. "How do you know that?" The clerk did not answer right away. He set down his pen. He pushed back from his desk. He walked to a wooden cabinet in the back of the room, opened a drawer, took out a thick folder, brought it back to the desk, set it down, looked at her. "Your mother came in here 3 years ago, summer of 1873, with a sack of money and a piece of paper that took me a week to figure out the legal end of." Astrid did not breathe. "She filed a claim on a quarter section, south-facing hillside, 3 miles south of town, filed it under her daughter's name, said the deed would be released when her daughter turned 16 and came to claim it herself." He paused. "She paid the fees 3 years in advance, said it had to be ready, said it could not be delayed for any reason." He pushed the folder across the desk. "Are you that daughter?" Astrid could not speak. She nodded. The clerk pulled a single sheet from the folder, read aloud. "Quarter section, south-facing hillside, to be held in trust until Inga Astrid Lindqvist reaches the age of 16 years. Signed Birgitta Lindqvist, July 19th, 1873. He set the paper down. "Your mother came through here once." After that, about a year later, to check on the records, to make sure they were filed correctly. He looked at Astrid. His eyes were soft. She told me, if a young woman ever came in here, asking about this claim, to tell her something. Astrid waited. The clerk took off his spectacles, cleaned them on his sleeve, put them back on. She said, tell my daughter, the land belongs to God. I'm only holding it for her. Astrid walked out of the land office, walked into the cold prairie sun, held the folder against her chest. She did not get more than 30 yards before her knees stopped working. She sat down in the grass, right there, in the middle of the path, held the folder, and finally, she cried, not the small cry, not the polite cry, the other one, the one that comes out of your stomach, the one that doesn't sound like a person at all, because her mother had loved her so much. Her mother had loved her so much that she had walked from a sick bed 3 years ago, across counties, with a sack of saved-up money, to buy a piece of ground for a child who would not need it for years. Her mother had known. Her mother had planned. Her mother had refused to leave her alone. The clerk did not come outside. He let her cry. He understood. When she finally stood up, wiped her face, picked up the satchel, she turned back to the door of the office. The clerk was at the window. He raised one hand, did not smile, just raised his hand, like he was sending her off. Astrid walked south to find the land her mother had bought her. The land was on a sloping hillside above the river bottoms, south-facing, exactly as her mother had drawn. When Astrid crested the rise and saw it, the whole quarter section spread out below, brown grass, a fold in the hill, the river beyond. She felt her mother standing next to her. She did not see her. She felt her. She walked down to the hill itself, touched the dirt, brown and dry, a little frosted in the shady places. She walked along the slope, found the spot, the exact spot, where the hillside dropped just enough, where the prevailing wind would hit the ridge above and roll past her, where the sun would warm the face of the slope all winter. She set down her satchel. She stood there, and she said, out loud, because there was no one to hear, "Hello, Mama, I made it." The wind did not answer, but the grass moved a little, and that was enough. The first skeptic arrived the next morning. Astrid had slept in a stand of cottonwoods near the river, wrapped in a wool blanket, tucked tight. The cold had not killed her, just made her angry. She was up at dawn, walking the site, pacing the dimensions her mother had drawn. A horse came over the rise, a big man on it, sheepskin coat, beard like a hedge, a face that had spent 40 winters outside. He rode down, stopped 20 feet from her, looked at the satchel, the stakes she had pushed into the ground, the way she had her sleeves rolled to her elbows even in the cold. "You're going to build here?" "Yes, sir." "Into the hill?" "Yes, sir." He pulled off his hat, scratched the top of his head, put the hat back on. "You'll freeze to death like a potato in a cellar." He said it kindly, like he was warning a child not to touch a stove. "I won't." He squinted at her. Then he laughed. Not a mean laugh, a laugh from somewhere far away, a laugh that had to push through a lot of years to get out. "What's your name, girl?" "Inga Lindqvist." "Henrik Olofsson." He did not get off the horse. "Where are your people?" "Gone." "Gone how?" "Gone the way people go." He nodded slowly, like he understood that, like he had also gone that way. "You know what happens to people who try this?" "What?" "They die." "Some people. Most people." She looked at him. "My mother drew me the plans. She would not have drawn me plans for something that kills me." He did not answer, just looked at her for a long moment. Then he tipped his hat, turned the horse, rode away. She watched him go. She did not know yet. She did not know that Henrik Olofsson had once stood next to a frozen body of his own, many years ago, in Norway, that the body had been 12 years old, that the body had been his sister, that he had carried it 3 miles back to their parents' farm, that he had never spoken of it to anyone since. She did not know that when he saw her standing on that hillside, with her stakes, with her sleeves rolled up, 16 and alone. He had not been mocking her. He had been afraid. The second skeptic came that afternoon. Klaus Wendel, a German mason in his middle 30s, built like the stones he worked with. He did not ride. He walked, carried a leather bag of tools like it weighed nothing. He looked at her stakes, looked at the hill, looked at her. Underground, yes. Damp. I'll drain it. You'll drain it how? With a sloped floor. Calculated how? By eye. He smiled, did not mean to. Caught himself. I apprenticed 4 years to learn to grade a floor. My mother also apprenticed. To her mother. Who apprenticed to her mother. In Dalarna. He looked at her differently after that. You will get sick. Why? Because underground. Mold. Damp. My cousin's wife in Pennsylvania. She died of consumption. 2 years in a dugout. Was the dugout ventilated? He did not answer. Was the floor graded for drainage? He did not answer. Did she crack the door an inch at night for air? He shifted his weight. It does not matter, girl. It does matter, sir. It matters very much. If your cousin's wife died because the house was wrong, that is one story. If she died because the people built it wrong, that is another story entirely. He looked at her for a long time. He had a daughter at home, 6 years old, Mathilde, with a cough she could not shake, sleeping in a stone house he had built with his own hands, a stone house he was proud of, a stone house that was killing her. He did not know that yet. He would learn it later. For now, he just stood on the hillside and said, "Be careful, child," and walked away. The third skeptic came at sunset. Reverend Edmund Whitfield, 48, Boston by birth, frontier by choice, pressed white collar, wool coat that had been brushed that morning, a face arranged for sermons. He did not pretend to inspect her stakes. He did not even look at the hillside. He looked at her. Miss Lindqvist. Reverend? This is not appropriate. What isn't? A young woman, alone, in a hole in the ground. It is not Christian. My Lord was born in a cave, sir. He blinked. She had not expected to say it. It came out before she could stop it. He recovered fast, smiled the way men smile when a girl says something clever and they have decided not to be impressed. That was an exception, my dear, not a model. A cave is a cave, Reverend. A young woman of your age should be in a Christian home, under the protection of a Christian family. The Lord did not design his daughters to live like the natives did. The natives lived warm. The natives lived primitive. The natives lived. The wind moved between them. He looked at her like she was something he had not encountered before, something he had not been taught how to manage. There are families in town, he said. Good families, Lutheran, Methodist. They would take you in. You are young. You are capable. In time, a suitable marriage. I had a suitable marriage offered to me, Reverend. To whom? A 47-year-old widower in Sioux Falls. He did not answer. My stepfather arranged it. He did not answer. I am here because I refused. The Reverend looked at his boots. Then he looked up. Miss Lindqvist, I will pray for you. Thank you, sir. I do not expect you to survive the winter. That is also a kind of prayer. She did not say it harshly. She said it like a fact, like the temperature, like the time of day. He nodded once, turned, walked back toward his buggy. Astrid watched him go. She felt something twist in her chest. Because she had been raised to respect ministers. Because her mother had taught her that the church was the bride of Christ. Because she did not want to be a girl who said hard things to old men in collars. And yet, something her mother had said years ago kept coming back to her. The pulpit is not the church, daughter. The people are the church. Watch the people. Astrid sat down on the hillside. She did not cry. She just sat. The sun set behind her. The cold came up out of the grass, and she sat. Hilda Nealon came that evening, a woman of about 50, tall, strong shoulders, a face that had been pretty once and was something better now, something steady. She walked up the path carrying a basket. You haven't eaten. How do you know? I've been watching for a girl with stakes in the ground all day. My boy told me. He's the one who runs deliveries to the land office. He told me a Swedish girl walked out of there crying yesterday holding a folder. Astrid did not know what to say. Hilda set the basket down. Bread, cheese, a little jam, some pickled beets. My mother made the bread. She makes the bread because her hands work better when she is making bread. Thank you. Hilda sat down next to her, right on the cold ground, like it did not matter. My mother wants to meet you. Who is your mother? Helga, 70 years old, from Dalarna, came over in 1841. Astrid looked up. Dalarna. Her mother's notes had said Dalarna. Her mother's drawings had said Dalarna. Hilda was watching her face. I thought so, Hilda said. You have the Dalarna look. What is the Dalarna look? Stubborn, tired, stronger than you should be. A small laugh came out of Astrid, the first one in months. Hilda stood up. My mother said, when I find this girl, bring her to me tonight. She does not have much time anymore. She has been waiting for this. For what? Hilda looked down at her. That is for my mother to tell you. Mrs. Helga lived in a small frame house at the edge of the settlement. Whitewashed, tidy, a red door, a row of dried herbs hanging from the porch beam. When Astrid stepped inside, she smelled cardamom and wood smoke. She smelled the smell of her grandmother's kitchen, which she had never been in. She smelled her own childhood and her mother's childhood and the childhood of a woman she had never met. Mrs. Helga was in a rocking chair by the stove, wool blanket across her knees, white hair under a kerchief, hands twisted with arthritis, eyes the color of a winter sky. She looked up. She did not speak for a long time. Then she said in Swedish, You are Birgitta's daughter. Yes. I knew her. Astrid stopped breathing. You knew my mother. I knew her by letters, from Sweden, from cousins. She wrote me once, 3 years ago, to tell me what she was doing. She asked me if I would help her daughter, when the time came. Mrs. Helga's hand reached out, slow, shaking. Come here, child. Astrid came. She knelt by the chair. Mrs. Helga touched her face, the fingers cold, light, trembling but careful. Show me the papers. Astrid pulled the folder out, pulled the drawings out. Mrs. Helga held them up to the lamp. She made a small sound. She handed the drawings to Hilda. Look at these. Hilda looked. Mother, these are the old drawings, the Dalarna drawings. My mother had drawings like these. My grandmother had drawings like these. Mrs. Helga began to cry. Not a loud crying, a quiet one. The crying that has been waiting for 40 years and finally has somewhere to go. I thought no one remembered. She took Astrid's hand, held it between both of her own. I have prayed for 40 years that someone would remember, that the old ways would come back. The Lord has heard me. Astrid did not know what to say. Mrs. Helga looked at her, steady. You are not building a hole in the ground, child. Do you understand what you are building? What? You are building an ark. The word hit Astrid like a hand on her chest. Mrs. Helga said it again. An ark. The Lord told Noah to build into the wood. He told the people of Dalarna to build into the earth. The earth is a gift. It holds heat. It holds water. It holds the body. When the storm comes, the earth is what is left. She squeezed Astrid's hand. I was born in a dugout, in Sweden, 1806. My mother gave birth to me in a hole in a hillside, with 3 feet of snow above us, and I lived, because the earth held me. Astrid was crying now, could not help it. Mrs. Helga did not stop talking. I will teach you everything I remember, every measurement, every prayer, every blessing my mother said when she made the bread. I am old now. My hands do not work, but my mouth still works. And I will tell you everything. She looked at Hilda. Send for the Krause boys. Tomorrow. Tell them they will work for this girl. Tell them I will pay them myself if she cannot. Mother, she has money. She can pay them. Tell them anyway. Hilda nodded. Mrs. Helga turned back to Astrid. Your mother chose well, child. She chose the hillside. She chose the orientation. She chose the season. She chose the timing. How did she know? Mrs. Helga smiled. Wet eyes, crooked teeth, a smile 100 years old. Because women have always known, daughter. We are just not always allowed to say. The Kraus boys came the next morning. Friedrich, 17. Wilhelm, 15. German, strong, quiet. Too many sons in their father's house. Not enough land for any of them. Astrid offered them 50 cents a day each. They looked at the silver in her palm like it was an animal that might move. For how long? 19 days, maybe 20. Doing what? Building. Building what? She showed them the drawings. Friedrich looked at Wilhelm. Wilhelm looked at the drawings. Friedrich said, "We do not believe in this, but the money is real." "That is fine," Astrid said. "I do not need you to believe. I need you to dig." They started that afternoon. For 19 days, the hillside became a small world. Astrid woke before dawn. She read 3 verses from the Bible, the ones her mother had marked. She prayed. Not long prayers, short ones. The kind a person prays when they are about to do something they are afraid of. She walked to the site. The Kraus boys were already there. Friedrich with his shovel, Wilhelm with a hatchet, their breath in the cold air. They began to dig. 8 feet back into the hill, 3 feet down from that, 12 feet across, 16 feet deep. The dirt came out in piles, brown, damp, smelling of root and old grass. They cut sod into bricks, each one about a yard long, a foot wide, 6 inches thick. Each brick the weight of a small child. Wilhelm dropped one on his foot on the 3rd day. He did not cry, but his eyes filled, and Friedrich knelt next to him and put his hand on his brother's neck and said something quiet in German. Astrid pretended not to see. Some kindnesses must be left alone. Mrs. Helga came every day. Hilda drove her in a small cart. They wrapped her in 3 blankets. They set a wooden chair on the flat ground outside the hole. Mrs. Helga sat in her chair. She watched. She did not say much in the morning. The cold made her teeth ache. But by noon, when the sun was up, when the boys took their break to eat the bread Hilda had brought, she would speak. The corner of the back wall, make it round, not square. The cold settles in square corners. The boys looked at Astrid. Astrid said, "Round the corner." They rounded the corner. The chimney, angle it through the hillside. The heat will warm the earth will draw the smoke. How do you know? Because my father did it that way. And my grandfather. And my great-grandfather. They could not all be wrong. Astrid said, "Angle the chimney." They angled the chimney. Linnea Sandberg came too. 8 years old. Hilda's granddaughter. Blonde braid, wool stockings, hands always cold, always full of something. She brought water. She brought small flat stones for the floor. She brought a wooden bird her grandfather had carved. She was not afraid of Astrid. This mattered more than Astrid could explain, because everyone else in the settlement looked at Astrid like she was a problem. Linnea looked at her like she was a person. On the 7th day, Linnea climbed into the half-finished dugout, sat on a sod brick, watched Astrid grade the floor. "What are you doing?" "Making the floor slope, so the water drains out." "How much does it slope?" "Just a little, 1 inch every 6 feet. "Why?" "Because more than that, and you would feel it under your feet. Less than that, and the water would pool." Linnea thought about this. Then she said, "My grandmother says you are an ark." Astrid looked up. "Yes? What is an ark?" "A boat that God told a man to build, to save his family from a flood." "You are not a man." "No, and there is no flood." "Not yet." Linnea looked around the dugout, at the half-finished walls, at the dirt floor, at the empty place where the stove would go. "It is dark in here. It will be lighter when we put the windows in. Will you be alone in here?" The question hung in the air. Astrid put down her grading tool. She knelt in front of Linnea, so they were the same height. "I will be alone in the building, but I will not be alone." "Why not?" Because my mother will be with me, and Mrs. Helga will be with me, and your grandmother will be with me, and you will be with me, even when you are not here. Linnea considered this. And God. Yes, and God. My grandmother says God lives in the earth. Did she say that? She said the earth is God's house, and we are guests. Astrid felt something move inside her chest. Something old. Something she had not felt since she was a small child sitting in her mother's lap. She said, "Your grandmother is a very wise woman." Linnea nodded, solemn, like she had known this already. On the 18th day, they raised the roof. 6 lodgepole pines, about as thick as a man's arm, freighted from the Black Hills at a price that took nearly half the budget. It took all 4 of them. Friedrich, Wilhelm, Astrid, and Hilda came to help. Even Mrs. Helga rolled up the corner of her blanket so she could watch. The first beam went up, then the second, then the third. The Kraus boys grunted, sweated, cursed in German. The 4th beam slipped, almost fell. Friedrich caught it with his shoulder, slammed it against the wall to brace it. His face went red. His arm shook. "Halt us! Wilhelm dove under, got a hand on it, pushed up. It held. They got it into place. Astrid was crying. She did not know why she was crying. The beam had held. Everything was fine. But she was crying. Mrs. Helga from her chair said, "It is all right, daughter. Sometimes when the roof goes on, the body knows. The body knows it is going to have a home." Astrid wiped her face. She nodded. They finished the roof. 2 layers of sod, over a foot thick, tons of earth. The pines did not creak. The roof held. On the 19th day, they installed the door. Heavy cottonwood planks, 4 inches thick, leather hinges from the fort. It opened inward, so no snowdrift could trap her inside. The stove went in last, cast iron, black as a Bible cover. When the last connection was made, when the chimney pipe went up through the hill, when the door was hung, Astrid stepped inside. She closed the door behind her. The light came in through the 2 small windows, soft, filtered through 2 feet of sod, like light through cathedral glass. The walls were warm. The floor was solid. The smell was earth and wood smoke and clean canvas. She walked the length of the room, 12 by 16, 9 feet of headroom at the front. She set the Bible on the small table. She lit the lamp. She sat down. She did not say anything for a long time. Then she said out loud to the room, to the earth, to her mother, "Mama, I'm home." Mrs. Helga came inside that evening. Hilda helped her down from the cart, helped her through the door, settled her in the wooden chair Astrid had set near the stove. Mrs. Helga looked around, touched the wall, touched the floor with her cane, looked up at the beams. She did not speak for a long time. Then she opened her hand. A candle, beeswax, yellow with age, the wick black from having been lit, maybe 100 times, maybe more. This was my mother's, lit at her wedding in 1804, lit at my baptism in 1806, lit at my mother's funeral, lit at my own wedding, lit at the births of my children, lit at the deaths of 2 of them. She held it out. I have been waiting to give it to someone. I have been waiting a long time. Astrid did not move. "Take it, child." Astrid took the candle. It weighed almost nothing. It weighed more than anything she had ever held. Mrs. Helga said, "Light it tonight, when you are alone. Let the wax run down. It is the same wax, the same flame. It has burned through every important night of my mother's life and mine. It will burn through yours now." Astrid could not speak. Mrs. Helga reached out, cupped her face, the old hand cold, light. "You are not alone, daughter. You are never alone. We are with you. The dead are with you. The Lord is with you. The earth is with you. Do you hear me?" Yes. Say it. I am not alone. Again. I am not alone. Say it tomorrow morning. Say it every morning. I will. Mrs. Helga nodded. Hilda helped her stand, at the door. Mrs. Helga turned, looked back at the room one more time. My mother is smiling, she said. I can feel her smiling. Then she went out into the cold. Hilda lingered behind for a moment. My mother does not have much time left, but you have given her the gift of her life. She has been carrying these old ways alone for 70 years. She thought she would die with them inside her. She thought no one would ever know. She touched Astrid's arm. You did this. You gave an old woman her last great joy. Then she was gone. Astrid stood in the doorway for a long time. She watched the cart move slowly down the path. Mrs. Helga's wrapped figure small against the sunset. Hilda driving slow because her mother's bones could not take a bump. Then she went back inside. She closed the door. She set the candle on the table next to her mother's Bible. She struck a match. She lit the candle. And for the first time, in months, she did not feel grief. She felt peace. A small, quiet, hard-won, underground peace. The kind of peace that comes only after you have walked through the cold for a very long time. And finally, found a door, opened it, and stepped inside. Outside, the wind began to rise. Inside, the candle burned steady. Astrid Lindqvist sat at her table. She was 16 years old. She was home, and the storm, the real storm, was still 5 days away. The first week was quiet, quieter than Astrid had expected. She woke each morning at the same hour, before dawn, the way her mother had woken, the way every farm woman in their family had woken for 200 years. She lit the small lamp, stoked the stove, put water on for coffee. The dugout held warm without a fire at all. With a small fire, it climbed to a comfortable temperature any house in the settlement would have envied. She measured this every morning. She had pinned a slip of paper to the wall above the door, wrote the numbers down with a stub of pencil. December 7th, December 8th, December 9th. The numbers stayed steady. She was not building a hole. She was running an experiment, and the experiment was working. Each morning she opened the Bible. She did not read in order. She read where her mother's marks were. Underlines, tiny pencil dots beside verses, the occasional Swedish word written in the margin. There were hundreds of marks. Astrid had not known. She had grown up watching her mother read this Bible. She had not known the woman was leaving her a trail of every verse that had carried her. Through every hard night, through every long year, through whatever Oscar had done. Astrid found a verse with 3 lines under it. Heavy lines, like her mother had pressed hard. Psalm 46, verse 5. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. Astrid traced the lines with her finger. She wondered which night her mother had underlined that verse. She did not want to know. She wanted to know. She did not want to know. On the 4th day, Emil Hoffman came. He rode up on a brown horse, dismounted slowly, carried a leather satchel and a notebook. He was younger than the others, 30 maybe, brown hair, glasses, a face that had read too many books. He did not look at her like Henrik did. He did not look at her like Klaus did. He did not look at her like the Reverend did. He looked at her like she was a problem he had been asked to solve, and he was not happy about it. Miss Lindqvist? Yes. My name is Emil Hoffman. I teach school in the settlement. I have come to ask if I might inspect your structure. Why? He paused. For scientific reasons. Scientific reasons. Yes. Who sent you? He paused again, this time longer. May I come inside before I answer that? Astrid stepped back from the door. Let him in. Watched. He set his satchel down on her table, beside the Bible. He did not seem to notice the Bible. He took out a notebook, a measuring tape, a small glass thermometer. He moved around the dugout. He measured the wall thickness. He measured the floor pitch. He held the thermometer against the back wall for 2 minutes. He wrote everything down. Astrid watched. She did not offer him coffee. He measured the height of the door. He sketched the chimney angle. He pressed his palm against the sod brick, held it there. Then he stopped. He stood in the middle of the room. He looked at the floor. He did not look at her. The Reverend sent me. I thought so. He has paid me $10 to write a report, demonstrating, scientifically, that this dwelling is unsafe. He intends to use it to pressure the territorial authorities, to revoke your claim on the grounds of inhabitability. The silence was sharp. Emil still did not look at her. He believes if the structure is condemned, you will have to accept placement in a Christian home, where, as he put it, you can be properly cared for. Astrid sat down on the bench by the table. Her hands shook. She put them under her thighs so he would not see. "Why are you telling me this?" He finally looked at her. "Because I cannot do it." "You cannot do what?" "I cannot write a dishonest report. I have spent 4 days walking around your structure. I have measured everything. I have read the German engineering manuals. I have read what little exists in print on earth-sheltered dwellings. I have done the calculations on heat retention and moisture management." He paused. "Your dwelling is sound. It is, in fact, the most thermally efficient structure within 50 miles. You have done something extraordinary, and I cannot write a paper saying you have not." Astrid did not know what to say. She said, "Then why are you in my house?" He almost smiled. "Because I needed to tell you, to your face, that I was hired to harm you, and that I will not do it." She studied him. He looked tired, older than 30. Something was not right with him. She was 16 years old, and she could already read a man's face, read what years had done to it. "Sit down, Mr. Hoffman." He sat. She poured him coffee. She did not say anything else for a long minute. Then she said, "Why are you telling me this? Really?" He stared at his cup. "I do not know why I am telling you this. Really." "Try." He looked up. "My mother." "What about her?" "My mother was a midwife in Wisconsin. She knew herbs. She knew which plants to give a woman in labor. She knew which to give a child with fever. She knew which to give an old man with a sore stomach. She had learned from her mother. Who learned from her mother? The way you say your mother learned in Dalarna." He stopped. He drank his coffee. His hand was steady, but his voice was not. "A woman in our town, a neighbor, died of childbirth fever. My mother had attended the birth. The husband, he blamed her. He went to the minister. He went to the magistrate. He said my mother had used unholy knowledge." Astrid waited. "They came for her." "What?" "They came for her in the night. The minister at the front, the husband behind him, a few other men. They said she could no longer practice. They burned her herbs in the yard, every bundle, every jar, every dried root she had collected for 30 years. He set the cup down. She tried to keep working, quietly, helping the women who still asked. But the talk in the town turned. The minister preached against her from his pulpit. He used the Bible in his hand to do it. People stopped buying her bread, stopped letting her near their children. By winter, she was alone in her house. Cold. No fuel because the men who used to cut her wood would not come anymore. What happened? She got sick. Pneumonia, bad winter. No one would help her. No one would bring her the herbs she would have given herself because the herbs were the herbs they had burned. He took off his glasses, set them on the table, rubbed his eyes. She died alone in that house. I was 15 years old. I had been sent to my uncle in Madison. They thought I was too young to see it. He put the glasses back on. I have not been able to pray since. I have tried, believe me, I have tried. I sit in churches and I feel my mother's body in that house. I hear sermons and I hear the words the minister used about her. I read the Bible and I see her killers using the same Bible to justify it." He looked at his hands. "And now another minister is paying me $10 to harm another woman with knowledge older than his church. And I cannot. I cannot do it. Not for $10. Not for 100. Not for any sum on God's earth." Astrid sat very still. Then she said something, quietly. "Mr. Hoffman." "Yes." "The man who hates God is not you." He looked up. "You hate the men who use God to kill your mother. That is a different thing, a very different thing." He did not speak. My mother used to say, "The pulpit is not the church, the people are the church. Watch the people." Tears were running down his face. He was not making any sound, just sitting there, with his cup of coffee, crying. She did not look away. She did not pretend not to see. She sat with him, in the dugout her mother had drawn. For as long as he needed, when he could speak again, he said, "I have not told anyone that story in 15 years. I am honored you told me. I have not believed anything in 15 years. You believed enough to come here and refuse the minister's money. That is a kind of belief." He almost smiled. "What kind?" "The kind that matters." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "What can I do to help you?" She thought about it. "Write the truth instead." "What?" "You came here to write a paper. Write one. Just write the true one. Write what you have actually measured. Send it to the territorial newspaper. Send it to the engineering journals back east. Let people know what works. Maybe the next girl who stands at the edge of nowhere with her dead mother's drawings will have a paper to point to." He looked at her. He looked at the dugout walls. He looked at the Bible on the table. He nodded. "I will write it." The first cold snap came on the 11th day. The thermometer outside her door dropped well below zero at sunrise, stayed there for 3 days. Astrid kept the stove going low, used very little wood. The interior temperature held steady. She walked into the settlement on the second day to buy a sack of dried beans from the trading post. She passed Henrik's house. His chimney was a chimney on fire, smoke pouring out so thick it stained the sky. She passed Klaus Wendel's stone house. She heard a child coughing through the walls. She passed the Reverend's white-painted house. She heard him preaching to a small congregation in the parlor. The Sunday service, his voice loud, authoritative. She could not make out the words, but she could see his wife through the window, wrapped in a quilt, shivering, in her own house, while her husband preached. Astrid kept walking. That night Henrik came. She heard the horse before she saw him. She opened the door. He stood on the path, the reins loose in his hand, snow in his beard, his face raw from the wind. He did not speak. She stepped back. "Come inside." He came inside. He closed the door. He stood by the stove, did not take off his coat, did not sit down. He looked at the walls, the floor, the candle on the table, the pinned slip of paper above the door with her temperature measurements. He read the numbers. He looked at her. "How much wood?" "A little less than half what most folks need." He stared. "My house, I burn 3 times that." She did not answer. He sat down at the table. She poured him coffee. He held the cup, did not drink, just held it. Then he said, "I was wrong. You couldn't have known. I should have known." He set the cup down. He did not look at her. "My grandfather built into a hillside in Norway when I was a boy. We visited him. The house was warm in winter, cool in summer. I have not thought about that house in 30 years. He paused. "I forgot. We come to this new country, and we forget everything our grandfathers knew." Astrid watched him. The big shoulders, the beard going gray, the hands that could have crushed her if he had wanted, folded around a coffee cup like he was afraid he would break it. She knew. She did not know how she knew, but she knew. "Mr. Olafsson." "Henrik. Henrik. Something else is wrong." He did not answer. "You did not come here just to tell me you were wrong about my house." He did not look up. The fire popped in the stove. She waited. She knew how to wait. He spoke without raising his eyes. "I had a sister." His voice was a strange voice, not the voice of the man on the horse, a smaller voice, a boy's voice trapped inside a 42-year-old man. Her name was Solveig. "How old?" 12. He stopped. He picked up the coffee cup, set it down, picked it up, set it down. "I was 17 years old. We lived in a fishing village, north of Bergen, old enough to know better, young enough to be stupid." "What happened?" "My parents had gone to a wedding, in a village 2 hours away. They could not take Solveig because she had a cough, so they left her with me. They left me to watch her, for one night. Astrid did not breathe. "My friends came over. They had brandy. I had been drinking with them all summer. They wanted to go down to the docks, sit on the boats, drink and talk about girls. I told them I had to stay with my sister." He paused. "They laughed at me." "They laughed at you." "They laughed and they said, Come on, Henrik. She is 12. She is asleep. We will be back before midnight. He drank the coffee finally. Then he set the cup down very carefully, like he was afraid he would smash it. I went. The dugout was so quiet Astrid could hear her own blood. I was gone 4 hours, maybe 5, when I came back. The stove was out. I had forgotten to bank the fire. The window was open. Solveig had opened it for air because her cough was bad. She must have opened it, and then she must have fallen asleep. And the cold came in. He stopped. He did not cry. He did not have any tears left for this story. He had used them all up decades ago. When I found her, she was already cold. Her fingers were blue. I tried to warm her up. I built up the fire. I wrapped her in everything. I held her against my chest. I sat there for 2 hours, holding my sister, who was not going to wake up, because of me. Astrid's hands were over her mouth. She did not remember putting them there. Henrik went on, quietly. When my parents came home, they did not yell, they did not hit me. My father just sat down at the kitchen table, and my mother just walked into Solveig's room and closed the door. And neither of them ever spoke of it again, in the rest of their lives. They never spoke her name out loud. They never said it was my fault. They never said it was not my fault. They just... His voice cracked. They just got quiet. They got quiet, and they stayed quiet for the rest of their lives. And I left Norway 4 months later, because I could not stand the quiet. Astrid said nothing. What was there to say? He said, softer now. I prayed for 25 years, for God to forgive me. I have never heard an answer. Never. Not a whisper. Not a feeling. Not a single sign. I sit in churches and I feel nothing. I close my eyes at night and I feel nothing. I am a man God has forgotten. He looked up at her then. His eyes were terrible. When I saw you, standing on that hill, 16 years old, with your stakes, I thought, another one, another girl who is going to die, and I cannot watch it. She understood now. The laughter on his horse, the warning about freezing like a potato. None of it had been cruelty. It had been a man trying to scare a girl away from her own death, because he could not bury another 12-year-old, because he could not bury another sister. She reached across the table, took his hand. He flinched. She did not let go. She said, quietly, Henrik, yes. God forgave you the day it happened. His face did not change. He forgave you while you were still holding her. He forgave you before you finished praying for the first time. The forgiveness was never the problem. What was? You have not forgiven yourself. He looked at her. He looked at her like she had said something in a language he had heard before but forgotten. I cannot. Then that is the work. What is? That is the work of the rest of your life. To forgive Henrik Olafsson for what he did when he was 17 years old and stupid and drinking with his friends. That is the work, not God. God is done. The work is you. He bent his head. He put his forehead against the table, and the big Norwegian shoulders that had not shaken in 25 years shook. He cried in her dugout like a child. She did not move her hand from his. She sat with him. She was 16 years old. She was a mother to a 42-year-old man for 1 hour in a hole in the ground while the wind howled above them. When he could speak again, he wiped his face with his sleeve. I am sorry. Do not be. I came to tell you, you were right about the house. You told me. I told you. He stood up slowly, like he was older than he had been an hour ago, and also lighter, both at once. At the door he turned back. My grandfather, the one who built into the hillside, he had a saying. What was it? He said, the earth is older than the cold, and kinder. Astrid smiled. That is a true saying. Henrik tipped his hat, stepped out into the snow. She watched him ride away, the big silhouette against the white. She closed the door. She went to her table, sat down, opened the Bible. She wrote in the front cover, in small, careful letters, December 18th, 1876. Henrik Olafsson came tonight. He told me about his sister. The Lord is doing something. I do not know what, but he is doing it. 2 days later, Matilda got worse. Astrid heard about it from Hilda. Hilda came in the afternoon with bread and news. Klaus Wendel's daughter is dying. Which one? The little one. Matilda, 6. The cough. How bad? They say she cannot lift her head off the pillow. She sleeps 18 hours. She is the color of paper. Astrid put down the bread. I want to see her. Klaus will not let you in. Why? Hildy looked at her steadily. Pride. The man has pride enough for 10 men. His house, his stone house, his mason work. To let you into that house would be to admit something he is not ready to admit. Astrid thought about this. She thought about it for a long time. She thought about Klaus standing on the hillside 3 weeks ago, telling her about his cousin's wife dying of consumption, warning her about damp, warning her about mold. She thought about him going home that day, to his stone house, to his daughter coughing in the back room. She thought about a man who could not see, that he was already living in the house he had warned her against. Stone is not earth, but stone is cold, and cold houses sweat, and the sweat is the mold. And the mold is the cough, and the cough is the child. She put on her coat. Where are you going? To Klaus Wendel's house. He will not let you in. Then I will stand outside until he does. She walked into the settlement, past the trading post, past the white-painted Reverend's house, past Henrik's smoking chimney, down the small road to the stone house at the edge of the timber claim. It was a beautiful house. She would say that for Klaus Wendel. The man had built a beautiful house, stone laid square, mortar tight, a real chimney, real shingles, a wooden door with iron hinges that cost more than most men's coats. She stood in the yard. She did not knock. She just stood. The door opened. A woman, thin, hair coming out of a bun, apron stained, Klaus's wife. Astrid had seen her at the trading post, did not know her name. Yes. My name is Inga Lindqvist. The woman knew her name. The whole settlement knew her name. What do you want? I want to help your daughter. The woman stared. My husband. I know. He will not. I know. He has. I know. The woman closed her eyes. She did not say anything. Astrid said, I will come back tomorrow. I will come back the day after. I will come back every day. Until he lets me in. Or until she dies. Whichever comes first. The woman pressed a hand against her mouth. She closed the door. Astrid walked home. That night she barely slept. She lay on her straw mattress, stared at the timbers above her head, listened to the wind. She did not pray. She wanted to. She could not. She kept seeing the woman's face at the door. She kept thinking about her own mother, about what her mother might have looked like, years ago, standing at her own door. While Oscar did whatever Oscar had done. What if some neighbor had come? What if some 16-year-old girl had walked up the path and said, I will come back every day until he lets me in, or until she dies, whichever comes first. What if? What if? Astrid pressed her face into the pillow. She made a small sound. Not a sob. Something underneath a sob. A sound a daughter makes for a mother she could not save. The next afternoon, Klaus came to her dugout. He came on foot. He carried his daughter wrapped in a wool blanket, her face buried against his collar, her small arm hanging down, white as bone. He did not knock. He stood at the door. When Astrid opened it, he did not speak. He held the child out to her. He held her out the way you hold something you cannot keep, the way you hold something you have ruined. His face was a face she had not seen on a man before. She had seen anger. She had seen pride. She had seen contempt. She had not seen this. This was something else. She took the child, stepped back, let him in. He stepped inside. He looked around. Once. Quickly. The way a man looks at a room he has come to apologize in. Then he dropped to his knees. The big German mason. On the dirt floor of a hole in a hillside. In front of a 16-year-old girl. Please. That was all he said. Please. Astrid set the child on her own bed. Pulled the blanket up. Touched her forehead. Hot but not too hot. Wet hair. The breath shallow. She turned back to Klaus. He was still on his knees. Get up, Mr. Wendell. He shook his head. Get up. I have. Up. I have wronged you. I have wronged my child. Mr. Wendell. He looked up at her. The pride was gone. There was nothing left underneath the pride but a man. She said, steady, quiet. Do not kneel before me. Kneel before your daughter when she wakes up. Tell her you were wrong. Tell her you will learn. Tell her you will rebuild your house if you have to. But do not kneel before me. I am 16 years old. I do not deserve that. And neither do I want it. He stared at her. Then he stood up. He stood up slowly. He stood up like a man who had been kneeling for years and had only just realized it. Matilda stayed in the dugout for 3 nights. Astrid moved her own bedding to the floor, gave the bed to the child, built up the fire just slightly, kept the temperature steady. Klaus came every morning. He brought soup his wife had made. He brought clean linen. He brought wood. He brought more wood than they could possibly use. He did not speak much. He sat by the bed, watched his daughter sleep, watched her breathing, the wet rattle in her chest, listened for hours. The rattle got quieter. By the second day, her color came back a little. By the third day, she opened her eyes and asked for water. Klaus wept. He did not make a sound. He just sat in the chair next to the bed, tears running down his face. He did not wipe them. He just let them run. Astrid stayed quiet. Some moments do not need a witness, but they do need a hostess. She poured him coffee. She did not say anything. She just made the room warm. On the 4th day, Klaus took Mathilde home. Before he left, he stood in the doorway, holding his daughter, stronger now, color in her cheeks, her hand fisted in his beard. He looked at Astrid. I will go home. I will tear out the back wall. I will build a wooden wall inside, with an air gap, like you said. Yes. My wife, she does not. She has not. She does not know what to say. She does not need to say anything. She wants to. Tell her she does not need to. Tell her her daughter is healing. That is enough. He nodded. At the gate he stopped, turned back. Miss Lindqvist. Yes. My father in Hamburg, he used to say, a wise man learns from his own mistakes. A wiser man learns from another man's. A fool learns from neither. He looked at his daughter's small fist in his beard. I have been a fool. I will try to be a wise man now. He walked away. That afternoon, a trader came. Same man who had come weeks before, with the same warning about the same blizzard. He sat on his horse, did not get down. It comes the day after tomorrow. The blizzard. The sky has the look. 40 below at least, maybe colder. I will stay. I figured you would. I am riding to warn the others. Olafson, Wendell, the Reverend, everyone south of the bend. Thank you. You have enough wood. 3/4 of a cord inside. More outside. Water. Plenty. Food. Plenty. He nodded. He did not say good luck. He did not say be careful. He said, I will check on you after it passes, if I can get through. She said, thank you. He rode off. That evening, Oscar Brandt came. She had not seen him since October. She had not expected to see him ever again. He came in a hired buggy, a small man beside him, a man in a black coat with a leather case, a lawyer's case. Astrid was outside splitting kindling when she heard the wheels. She straightened up. Her hand went to the hatchet handle. Then she let it go. She would not need a hatchet. She had something better. She had paper. Oscar climbed down from the buggy. He had aged 6 months. He had aged 5 years. His beard was grayer, his shoulders sloped. He had the eyes of a man who was no longer entirely inside his own life. The lawyer climbed down after him. Soft round face, spectacles, a bored expression. Inga, my name is Astrid. Your legal name is Inga Astrid Lindqvist. You can call me Astrid or Miss Lindqvist. You will not call me Inga. He flushed. I have come. I know why you have come. You do not. You have come because you heard I am not dead. You have come because you heard the house I built does not fall down. You have come because somewhere in your shrunk little soul you remembered that this claim could feed you for the rest of your days. And you have come to take it. The lawyer cleared his throat. Miss Lindqvist, your stepfather has certain concerns regarding. Be quiet. The lawyer stopped. He did stop. Astrid did not know what was in her voice. She did not care. She walked past them, to the dugout door. Wait here. She went inside, got the folder, came back out. She held the folder up. This is the deed filed by my mother 3 years ago, under my name, Inga Astrid Lindqvist, paid in full, held in trust until my 16th birthday, which was in September, 2 months before I came here, 3 months before you decided to find me. She opened the folder, showed the lawyer. He took it. He read it. He read it again. He looked at Oscar. Sir, this is... Read it. Sir, this deed is... I said read it. Sir, with respect, this deed predates your marriage to the deceased. The land was never community property. It is held in trust under the daughter's name. The daughter is 16. The trust has matured. You have no claim. Oscar's face went white, then red, then white again. Astrid watched him. She did not feel triumph. She did not feel anger. She felt cold. Cold in the way the earth was cold underneath them. Old cold, patient cold, cold that had been waiting. The lawyer climbed back into the buggy. Oscar did not. He stood there. He looked at the dugout, the chimney, the smoke rising thin, the neat woodpile, the little fence she had started. He looked at her. Your mother left me. She did not respond. A year before she died, she left me. I know. You do not know. I do know. I have always known. I just did not have words for it. His mouth moved. No sound came out. Do you know why she left? Do not. Do you? Do not. Because she knew what I had done. He said it quietly. He said it the way a man says a thing he has been carrying for years. Astrid felt the ground move under her. Not the ground. Something inside her. She put her hand on the doorframe to steady herself. He climbed into the buggy. He did not look at her again. The lawyer flicked the reins. The buggy turned. The buggy left. Astrid stood in the doorway, watched it disappear over the rise. She did not move for a long time. She did not move until the cold made her hands burn. Then she went inside. She closed the door. She sat down at the table. She put her hands over her face. She did not cry. Yet. Mrs. Helga came that evening. Hilda drove her. The cart bumped along the frozen ground. The old woman wrapped in 3 blankets again. When she came in, she knew. Astrid did not have to say anything. Mrs. Helga sat in her chair by the stove. She set down her cane. She looked at Astrid. He came. Yes. He said something. Yes. About your mother. Yes. Mrs. Helga closed her eyes. She nodded. Tell me. Astrid told her, word for word, the whole conversation, the lawyer, the deed, the pale face, the last thing he said, when she was done. Mrs. Helga did not open her eyes for a while. Then she said, quietly, sit down, child. Astrid sat. I have something to tell you. I have been waiting. I did not know if you were ready. I think you are ready now. Mrs. Helga opened a small leather pouch she kept tied to her wrist. She took out a folded piece of paper. Old paper, brown at the edges. Your mother wrote to me 3 times. The first time was when she filed the deed. The second time was a year later. The third time was... She paused. 6 months before she died. She held out the paper. This is the last letter. Astrid took it. Her hands shook. She unfolded it. Her mother's handwriting. She had not seen her mother's handwriting in 5 months. She made a small sound. She read, "Dear Helga, you have been a friend to me, though we have never met. I write to you because I do not know who else will keep this safe. I am ill. I have been ill for some time. The doctor says cholera, but I know better. I know what is in my body. It is years of being struck, years of being held down, years of being told I was nothing. The body cannot hold that forever. Mine is letting go. I write so that someone will know, so that my daughter will know, when the time comes." Oscar struck me first 3 months after we married. He struck me last 2 weeks before I left him. In between, he struck me more times than I have fingers. He struck me when he drank. He struck me when he did not drink. He struck me when supper was late. He struck me when supper was on time and he had decided that was an offense. He never struck Astrid. I will say that. He never raised his hand against my daughter. He knew if he did, I would kill him in his sleep. He believed me. He was right. But he was planning to marry her off. As soon as she was 16, he spoke of it. He spoke of it openly. He had a man picked out. Old. Cruel. The kind of man Oscar himself wanted to be when he grew old. He thought it was a fine match. I left him a year ago. I went to my cousin's farm in the next county. I came back when I got too sick to travel. I came back because there was no one else. And because I had work to finish. The work is the deed. The work is the drawings. The work is the money. The work is making sure my daughter has somewhere to go when I am not there to send her. She will be sent. He will send her. As soon as I am gone, he will send her to that old man, or he will send her into the road. He will not keep a 16-year-old girl in his house with his new wife. There is no version of his life where my daughter is safe in his house after I die. So I am making her a place. Helga, if she finds you, if she comes to you, will you help her? Will you give her the old knowledge? Will you tell her about Delarna? Will you tell her she is not alone? Will you tell her her mother loved her? More than her own life, more than her own body, more than her own breath. Tell her her mother fought for her until the last day. Tell her her mother did not die. Tell her her mother sowed a seed. She is the seed, yours in Christ. Birgitta Lindqvist. Astrid read it twice. She read it a third time. She set the letter on the table. She put her head down on her arms. She wept. She wept for an hour. Mrs. Helga did not speak. Hilda did not speak. They sat with her, 2 old women and a girl, in a hole in a hillside, while the wind picked up outside. When Astrid raised her head, her face was wet, but her eyes were clear. She said she did not die of cholera. No, she died of him. Yes. Why did God let her? Mrs. Helga did not answer right away. She looked at the candle on the table, the yellow beeswax candle from 1804, burning steady. God did not let her child. He did. No, listen. She took Astrid's hands. God does not make the evil. God does not make Oscar. Oscar made Oscar. God does not strike your mother. Oscar strikes your mother. God did not kill her. He killed her. God did not let it happen. God watched it happen. There is a difference. What is the difference? What does God do, child, with suffering? What does he do? Astrid did not know. Mrs. Helga said, "He turns it into a seed. Your mother said it herself. She is the seed. You are what grew." She squeezed Astrid's hands. Your mother suffered. The seed is you. You are alive. You are free. You are sitting in a house your mother dreamed for you. You are loved by women your mother sent to you. You are warm while everyone else is cold. That is what God does with suffering. He does not stop it. He plants it, and then he makes it grow into something that did not exist before. Astrid was crying again. Mrs. Helga went on. You are angry at God. That is fine. Be angry. He is big enough. He has been carrying angry women for 6,000 years. He will carry you. She kissed Astrid's forehead. But do not forget, your mother's last act was not dying. Your mother's last act was planting. And the seed is here. The seed is sitting at this table with me. And the seed is going to live a long life. Mrs. Helga and Hilda left an hour later. Astrid stood at the door, watched the cart disappear into the dusk. She closed the door. She lit the beeswax candle. She set her mother's last letter beside it. She sat down at the table. She picked up the Bible. She opened it to Psalm 46. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. She read the verse out loud. She read it again. She closed the Bible. She rested her hand on it. She said, I am not moved. She said it again. I am not moved. She blew out the candle. She lay down on her bed. She slept. She woke at 3 in the morning. The wind had changed. She knew before she opened her eyes. The pitch of the wind was different, higher, sharper, a sound the prairie made only before something terrible. She sat up. She got out of bed. She put more wood in the stove. She walked to the door. She opened it an inch. The cold hit her face like a hand. The snow had started. The blizzard had come. She closed the door. She slid the latch. She turned to her room, her small underground world, her ark. She put her hand on the wall. The wall was warm. She said out loud, to the room, to the dead, to the living, to the one who watched all of it. I am not moved. Then she sat down at the table. She lit the candle again, and she waited. The blizzard hit at 2 in the morning. Astrid was already awake, had been awake for hours. The candle had burned low. The wax had run down the brass holder, pooled on the wood of the table. She heard it before she saw it. A train. 1,000 trains. The sound of the prairie being torn open by something that did not care what it tore. The dugout shook. Dust drifted down between the roof timbers, settled on her shoulders, on the open Bible, on the candle. The temperature inside dropped a few degrees in the first hour. The wind was finding every microscopic gap, pulling heat through them like a thief. But the walls held, the timbers held. The door, heavy, thick, hung on good hinges, held. Astrid stoked the fire, brought the temperature back up. She sat down at the table. She opened the Bible. She read Psalm 91 out loud, in Swedish, the way her mother had read it. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. She had not noticed before. That God in this psalm was a mother bird. She had read this psalm 100 times. She had not noticed. Her mother had underlined those 2 lines, twice, heavy lines. Astrid touched the page. She said, Mama, are you the feathers? The wind answered. The wind did not answer. She kept reading. The first night was the worst. Not because of the cold. The cold was manageable. The cold she had built for. It was the sound of the prairie screaming. Hour after hour. No pause, no break. Just that high, relentless animal sound. Like the earth itself was being skinned. She tried to pray. The words would not come. She tried to sleep. The sleep would not come. She sat at the table, wrapped in a wool shawl, the candle small and steady, the Bible open but unread. She thought about her mother. She thought about Henrik's sister. She thought about Matilda's small fist in Klaus's beard. She thought about Mrs. Helga in her warm house with her cardamom and her wood smoke. Was the old woman warm enough? Did she have enough fuel? Had Hilda stayed with her? She thought about everyone she had ever loved. She thought about how easy it would be, for any of them, to die in the next 4 hours. She closed her eyes. She said, out loud, to no one, to everyone, keep them. That was all the prayer she had. It was enough. It would have to be enough. The second night, the temperature outside dropped further than her thermometer could read. The mercury just stopped. She did not know how far below it had gone. She only knew that the wood on the inside of her door grew patterns of frost in the shape of ferns. She kept the stove going. She kept the candle going. She kept the Bible open. She read the Psalms, all of them, from the beginning. When she got tired, she went back to the ones her mother had marked. The wind did not stop, hour after hour. Then, at 1 in the morning, she heard the knock. She thought she imagined it. A small thud against the door, almost lost in the wind. She froze. Listened. Nothing. Then, again. A tiny knock. The kind of knock a child makes when the child does not have the strength for a real knock. Astrid stood up. Her heart was a hammer in her chest. She walked to the door. She set her hand on the latch. She thought this is not possible. She thought no one is out there. She thought the wind is playing a trick. She thought open the door anyway. She opened the door. A small shape collapsed inward, onto the dirt floor. Astrid dropped to her knees. It was Linnea. Linnea Sandberg, 8 years old, wrapped in a wool shawl that had ice on it, snow in her hair, snow on her eyelashes, her lips blue, her hands clenched, white as paper. Astrid pulled her in, slammed the door, slid the latch. She dragged the child to the stove, pulled the wet shawl off her, the wool stiff with ice, hair frozen to her scalp. Linnea! Linnea, look at me. The girl's eyes opened, just a slit. Auntie Inga. Linnea, stay awake. I came. How? Bama. Bama said, run. Astrid held the small body against her chest, rubbed her arms, her legs, pulled off the frozen mittens, saw the white tips of 3 fingers, pressed them against her own warm skin. How long? How long were you outside? Don't know. How did you get here? Bama told me which way. She told me. Count the cottonwoods. 3 trees. Then the river bend. Then the hill. Astrid was crying. She was not crying. She was warming a child. She was doing both. Why? Bama said. She said you are the Ark. The Ark. The word hit her like a wall. Mrs. Helga had said it the night they met. And now an old woman sick in her bed, with the storm howling, with the drifts piling up, with temperatures no body could survive, had wrapped her granddaughter in a shawl and pointed her at the Ark. Mrs. Helga had bet her granddaughter's life on a 16-year-old girl and a hole in a hillside. Astrid pressed her face against the child's hair. Oh, Helga. She said it out loud. Oh, Helga. The trust, the terrible trust, the faith of an old woman with no faith left to spare. Astrid moved. She moved fast. She knew about frostbite. Mrs. Helga had told her in those long afternoons by the stove. Slow warming, never fast, never the fire directly. Body heat, warm water. Patience. She heated water, not hot. Warm, wrist warm. She got the small wooden basin from under the bed. She set Linnea's hands in the water. The child gasped. It hurts. I know. It hurts. That means they are coming back. That means you still have them. She held the small fingers in the water, stroked them, talked to them. Wake up, hand. Wake up. The white turned pink, slow. She wrapped Linnea in 3 wool blankets, set her by the stove, made hot broth, made her drink it. A little at a time, not too much. The child slept. Then she woke. She slept again. By dawn, she was breathing easy, color in her cheeks. The 3 white fingertips a deep, ugly pink that meant tissue would live. Astrid sat on the floor beside her. Astrid did not sleep. She watched the child breathe. For 4 hours, she did not blink. She did not look away. The 3rd night, something happened she had not expected. She heard the knock again, the same small thud. A child's knock. She stood up. Linnea was asleep on the bed. Astrid walked to the door. She put her hand on the latch. She thought, it cannot be. She opened the door. A boy, maybe 10, skinny, coat too thin, boots 2 sizes too big. He fell forward. Astrid caught him. She did not know him. She had seen him maybe once, at the trading post, standing next to the Reverend's wife. Oh no. She knew who he was. Reverend Whitfield's grandson, Daniel, visiting from Boston for Christmas. She had heard the women talking about it weeks ago. A 10-year-old grandson from Boston. The Reverend had been very proud. She pulled him in, slammed the door, same routine, stripped the wet coat, the wet boots, body to body, hot stove, warm water. Patience, but this boy was worse. His lips were not blue, they were gray. His breathing was thin. He had been outside longer. She held him. She held him for an hour. She talked to him, softly, hummed her mother's songs, the lullabies in Swedish her mother had sung when she was sick as a child. The boy did not wake up. He breathed, but he did not wake. Astrid felt the cold panic crawl up her chest. No, no, not this. Not a child of the man who, not a child. She rocked him. She was not a mother. She was 16. She had no idea what she was doing. She rocked him anyway. She said, quietly, I do not care whose grandson you are. I do not care whose family. You are not dying tonight. Do you hear me? You are not dying in this house. I will not let you. She kissed the top of his head. She did not know she had done it until she had done it. He woke at dawn. His eyes opened, slowly, like a flower that has decided. He looked up at her. He whispered, where? You are safe. You are in my house. You are warm. My grandfather, you are not with him. You are with me. He is in his own house. I will get you back to him when the storm stops. The boy started crying, a small, tired, lost crying. I went out to find the dog. The dog ran out. Grandfather was. He was angry. The dog was howling. I went out. I went out. Hush. The wind. The wind. Hush. You are here. You are safe. The dog is the dog. You are alive. That is the only thing that matters. Linnea woke up on the bed, saw the boy, crawled down, came to him, sat next to him by the stove, put her small hand on his arm, did not say anything. The two children, strangers, both saved, sat side by side on the dirt floor of a sod house. Astrid watched them, and something in her cracked open. A door she had not known was closed. The wind stopped just before noon on the fourth day. It did not slow. It just stopped. One moment the world was screaming. The next moment it was silent. The silence was worse than the screaming. The silence had a weight. Astrid sat at the table, the two children asleep on her bed. She listened. She listened to the silence. She got up, walked to the door, slid the latch. The door would not open. She pushed. Nothing. She pushed harder. The door cracked an inch. Snow against the inside. Wet. Heavy. A wall. She pushed her shoulder against it. Pushed harder. The snow gave a little. She kept pushing, inch by inch, until she could squeeze her arm through. She dug. She dug with her hands. She dug with a wooden spoon. She dug with a fire poker. For an hour, until she had a tunnel. Up. Up to the surface. She crawled out. She stood up. She stood up into a world she did not recognize. The settlement was gone. Not gone, just buried. Drifts as tall as a man, sculpted by the wind into curves that looked like sand dunes. The blue sky above so bright it hurt her eyes. Nothing moved. Nothing moved anywhere. Astrid stood on the top of her own roof, without realizing it. The drifts had covered the hillside. She was standing on her own house. She did not know which direction to walk. She started for the settlement. The cold was not the cold of the blizzard. It was a sharp, clean cold. She could breathe it. She could move in it. She walked, hour after hour. She found Henrik first. His house had survived, barely. The north wall had ripped open, boards torn from the siding. Henrik was outside, boarding it up, his face raw, his beard a sheet of ice, but standing, alive. He saw her. He stopped. He did not say anything. He just walked to her, slowly. like a man walking through deep water. He put his arms around her. He held her against his chest. He did not speak. She did not speak. She felt the big shoulders shaking. A man who had been afraid she was dead. A man who could not have buried another 16-year-old. She held him back. He let her go. He said, hoarse, "How?" "My house held." "Of course it did. There are 2 children." "What?" "2 children. In my house. They came in the storm. Linnea Sandberg and the Reverend's grandson, Daniel." Henrik stared. "His grandson is alive." "Yes." "His grandson came to you." "Yes." Henrik closed his eyes. He said, "I have to tell people." "Yes." "I have to tell the Reverend." "Yes." "Inga." "Yes." He looked at her, the big eyes wet. 3 dead. Her stomach dropped. "Who?" "Old Peterson and a young couple, the Andersons. They were trying to walk from their shack to the trading post. Got turned around, half a mile from town. Froze." "That is 2." He looked down. "And a baby, 9 months old. The Larsons' youngest. Bad chimney. They thought she was sleeping." Astrid sat down on the snow. She sat down before her legs gave out. She did not cry. The crying was somewhere, but it had not arrived yet. Henrik knelt next to her. He said, "I will get word to Mrs. Helga. I will check on her myself. You stay with the children. You stay safe. I will come back." He stood up. He walked. She watched him go, the big silhouette against the snow. Then she walked back to her dugout. She did not run. She walked. The walk was a prayer. The walk was a long prayer for the dead. Henrik came back at sunset. He brought Klaus with him. Klaus carried a sack of food, sausage, hard cheese, bread his wife had baked the day before the storm. He set it on the table without a word. He looked at the 2 children on the bed. He nodded. Henrik said, "Mrs. Helga is alive." Astrid sat down hard. "How?" "Hilda stayed with her. They burned every stick of furniture, wooden chairs, a bookshelf, the table, anything that would feed the stove. They are alive." "She is, Helga is. Weak, very weak. She is asking for you." Astrid stood up. She put her coat on. Klaus said, "I will stay with the children." She did not argue. She did not have time to argue. She walked to Mrs. Helga's house. It took her 2 hours. Through the drifts, the snow up to her hips in places, the trail Henrik had broken still visible. Hilda opened the door. The house was bitter cold, almost as cold as the outside. The stove was burning, but barely. Hilda had wrapped Mrs. Helga in every blanket they owned, plus her own coat, plus her dead husband's coat, plus a feather pillow over the chest. Mrs. Helga was on the bed. Small. So small. Astrid had not seen her look small before. She had always been the largest thing in any room she occupied, by the force of what she carried. Now she looked like a child. Astrid knelt by the bed, took the old hand. The hand was cold, but moving, squeezing back. "Helga, daughter, you sent her." "Yes." "You sent her into the storm." "Yes." "How could you?" I knew you would open the door." Astrid was crying now, could not stop it. "What if you had been wrong?" "I was not wrong." "What if?" "I was not wrong, daughter. I have known your mother for 30 years through her letters. I knew her bones. I knew her blood. And you are her blood. I knew." "Helga, listen to me." "Yes." "Daughter, listen. There is faith. There is the kind of faith you have when everything is going well. The Sunday morning faith, the hymn-singing faith, that is good faith, but it is not the true kind." "What is the true kind?" "The true kind is the faith of an old woman who sends her granddaughter into a blizzard because she trusts a 16-year-old girl. The true kind is faith that costs you something, faith that costs you everything, faith that bets your own grandchild. That is the true kind." "I did not earn that." "You did. You earned it the day you walked out of your stepfather's house. You earned it the day you walked into the land office. You earned it every day for 19 days while you built that ark. You earned it the day Henrik came to your table and you let him cry. You earned it the day Klaus knelt in your doorway and you told him to stand up. She closed her eyes. She opened them again. You are an ark, daughter. You are exactly what God made you to be, and I am not afraid anymore. Astrid pressed the old hand to her face. She kissed it. She held it there. Stay with me. I am tired, daughter. Stay. I will stay tonight. I will stay maybe tomorrow. I will not stay much longer. But that is not bad. That is good. Helga. Listen. One more thing. Yes. Your mother was right about you. Tell her. When you get there, tell her. Helga. Tell her I said she was right. Astrid could not see. The tears were everything. She held the hand. She did not let go. Mrs. Helga lived 3 more days. She slept most of them. She woke for short moments. She drank a little broth. She did not speak much. On the 3rd day, at sunrise, with Astrid holding one hand and Hilda holding the other, she opened her eyes. She looked at Astrid. She smiled. That small, crooked, 100-year-old smile. She said, quietly, "Look, the light." And then she went, just like that. The breath came out. The breath did not come back. Astrid held the hand. She held it for an hour, until Hilda gently pried her fingers away. The funeral was on a Sunday. The whole settlement came. Every family within 10 miles. The settlement church was small, white, a single room. The pews wooden and worn. Reverend Whitfield stood at the front. He had a sermon prepared. Astrid could see it in his hand. Folded paper. He looked at it. He looked at the congregation. He looked at Astrid. His grandson Daniel sat next to her. The boy had refused to sit anywhere else. His small hand held tight in hers. He had not let go since the storm. He had not let go for 5 days. The Reverend opened his mouth. He closed it. He looked at the paper in his hand. He folded it again. He set it down on the lectern. Then he walked down the steps, down off the platform, onto the wooden floor of the church. He walked down the aisle until he was standing in front of Astrid's pew. Then he did something no one in the settlement had ever seen a minister do. He knelt, in his black robes, on the floor of his own church, in front of a 16-year-old girl in a black wool dress. The congregation made a sound, a collective small sound, like a sigh that had been held. The Reverend looked up at her. His eyes were wet. He said loud enough for everyone to hear, "I have preached about God for 25 years. He paused. He said, "I do not think I knew him until I met you." The church was silent. He went on, "I was wrong about this child. I judged her. I tried to harm her. I hired a man to harm her. I prayed she would fail. And then she saved my grandson." He looked at Daniel. The boy was crying, quietly, his small hand still in Astrid's. The Reverend looked back at Astrid. "I have no defense. I have no excuse. I come before you, before this church, before God, to ask your forgiveness." The whole congregation watched her. Astrid did not move, for a long moment. Then she stood up. She let go of Daniel's hand. She walked to the kneeling man. She knelt down. She was eye to eye with him now. She said, quietly, "Reverend, yes. My mother used to say, forgiveness is not a gift you give to the one who wronged you. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself." His eyes were wet. "I forgive you." He bowed his head. "Now you must forgive yourself. That is the harder one." He nodded. He could not speak. She helped him to his feet. She helped a 48-year-old minister to his feet. The whole church watched. The Reverend turned back to the congregation. He said, "I had a sermon prepared." He held up the folded paper. "It was a beautiful sermon. I worked on it for 3 days, about the wisdom of God in the storm." He set the paper down. "I do not need to give it. The sermon was given last week by a 16-year-old girl in a hole in the ground who saved my grandson and taught me what I should have learned 40 years ago." He paused. "I am leaving this pulpit." The congregation gasped. Not because I cannot preach, but because I should not. Not until I have learned what I should have learned. I will go back to Boston. I will study. I will pray. I will sit at the feet of people I should have been sitting at the feet of for years. And when I come back, if I come back, I will be a different man. He looked at Astrid one more time. Miss Lindqvist, thank you for my grandson, for my soul, for my education. Thank you. He stepped down. He sat in the front pew next to his wife. His wife did not look at him. She took his hand. She squeezed it. She did not let go. Spring came. The snow melted to the ground. The grass came up green and wild. The river bottom flooded. The Missouri ran high. Emil Hoffman's article was published in the Dakota Free Press on January 18th. A thermally efficient dwelling for prairie settlement. Cold prose, engineering, numbers, diagrams. He sent copies east to engineering journals, to university libraries. The article ran. The article was read. The article spread. By April, 17 families had come to Astrid, asking her to help them build. She charged $5 a consultation. She walked the land with them, showed them where to dig, where to face, how to angle the chimney, how to grade the floor, how to choose timber, how to lay the sod. She had Mrs. Helga's drawings on her table. She read them every morning. She added her own notes in the margins, in her own hand, below her mother's hand. The drawings were getting longer. The tradition was alive. The tradition was passing through her. In May, Klaus brought Matilda to visit. The child was strong now, pink-cheeked, running, climbing things she should not have been climbing. Klaus had torn out the back wall of his stone house, built a wooden wall inside, with an air gap, with ventilation. The mold was gone. The walls did not sweat. Matilda slept through the night. Klaus stood awkwardly in the doorway of Astrid's dugout. He said, I owe you, my daughter. You do not owe me anything. I owe you. Klaus. Yes. Hug your daughter. That is what you owe me. He looked at her. He picked Matilda up. He hugged her until she squealed. He set her down. He looked at Astrid. Thank you. He left. Astrid watched them walk down the path, Matilda holding her father's hand, looking up at him, saying something. The man laughing, actually laughing. A big German mason, laughing on a spring afternoon. Astrid leaned against her doorframe. She thought, this is what my mother wanted. She did not know how she knew. She knew. In June, Oscar came one more time. She saw him before he saw her. He came on foot. No lawyer, no hired buggy, no fine clothes. He looked bad, thin, stooped, his coat too big for him, his beard wild, his eyes bloodshot. He stopped 20 feet from her dugout. He did not approach. He took off his hat. He held it in his hands. He said, I came to ask if you might find it in your heart to forgive me. Astrid set down the bucket she was carrying. She looked at him. She felt nothing for him. That surprised her. She had expected to feel rage, or pity, or grief, or some terrible thing. She felt nothing. The man was a small thing. He had always been a small thing. She had not known until now. She said, Oscar. Yes, I am not going to forgive you for you. He flinched. I am going to forgive you for me, and for my mother. She would not want me to carry you around in my heart for the rest of my life. She would say, you are too heavy, set him down, so I am going to set you down. He did not speak. She walked into the dugout, came back out with the Bible. She opened to the back, to a page where her mother had written something, a note about Oscar, in her own hand. Years ago, Astrid had read it. It said, he hit me again tonight. I am tired. I am so tired. Astrid took the page. She tore it out of the Bible. She walked to her stove, through the open door, put the page in. The page caught, burned, curled, went to ash. She came back outside. You are not in my book anymore. Oscar's mouth opened, closed. He said, Astrid, I forgive you. Now go. I do not want to see you again. Not because I hate you, because I do not want to see you. Those are not the same. Goodbye, Oscar. He stood there. He stood there for a long time. Then he put his hat back on. He turned. He walked. He walked down the path. He did not look back. She heard a year later. He had drunk himself to death in a boarding house in Sioux Falls. She did not feel triumph. She did not feel grief. She walked out to the cemetery, the small one east of the settlement. She brought a single wildflower, a black-eyed Susan. There was no grave for Oscar. He was buried somewhere she did not know. She set the flower on the ground. She said, "To no one, to the air, to the Lord." He could not forgive himself. I tried to give it to him. He could not take it. Lord, you take him. He is too heavy for me. She walked home. Emil came that summer more often. He did not court her. He did not court the way men courted. He came to talk. He came with books. He came with engineering questions. He came to argue with her about thermodynamics. One August evening, they sat on the bench outside her dugout, the sun setting over the Missouri, the mosquitoes starting. He said, "Inga." "Yes." "I have been thinking. That is dangerous." "It is." He paused. "I respect you." "I know. I admire you." "I know. I am not a romantic man. I have noticed. But I think we work well together." "We do. I think we could build something larger, together, than either of us alone. I think we could spend a life, documenting, teaching, building, raising children if children come." He looked at her. "Would you consider it?" She looked at him. She thought about her mother. She thought about what her mother had asked of her. "Find a man who respects you. Have children. Tell them about me," she said slowly. "Yes." He blinked. "Yes. Yes, Emil." He almost smiled. He almost did not know what to do with his face. She said, "Now kiss me, before I change my mind." He did. He kissed her. Once. Carefully. The way a man who has read too many books kisses a woman who has built too many houses. She laughed. She had not laughed like that. In a year. They married almost 4 years later. In the autumn. Astrid wanted to be 20 before she married. Emil understood. They were not in a hurry. They had work to do. The settlement was full of families who wanted dugouts now. Astrid was teaching them. Emil was writing about them. The world was watching what they were doing. When the wedding came, it was under the oak tree where her mother had once stood, years before, looking at the land, knowing what was coming. Astrid felt her mother there, as surely as if her mother had been standing next to her. Mrs. Helga's daughter Hilda gave Astrid away. Daniel Whitfield, now 14 years old, tall for his age, down from Boston for the wedding, carried the rings. The Reverend Whitfield did not officiate. He had been gone for nearly 4 years. He was still studying, still rebuilding. He had written from Boston, a long letter. He had asked permission to attend. Astrid had said yes. He sat in the front row. He cried through the whole ceremony. After the vows, he came up to her, took her hand, said, "I came back for this. I am going back tomorrow. I am not ready yet, but I needed to be here." She said, "I am glad you came." He nodded. He left. That night, their first night, Astrid sat on the edge of the bed, in their new, larger dugout. 2 rooms, a real wooden floor, glass windows, a proper chimney. She opened her mother's Bible. She had carried it through every day of her life. She had read every page. She thought she had read every page. But that night, she found a page she had not read. A page taped into the back, tucked behind the last leaf, folded in half. She had passed it 100 times, had thought it was the binding. She unfolded it, her mother's handwriting, a letter. To her, "My beloved daughter, if you are reading this, you have lived. You have proven me right. I did not need you to be strong. I needed you to be free. I did not need you to be unhurt. I needed you to know that pain is not the last word. Love is. I did not need you to never grieve. I needed you to know that grief and joy live in the same house. They do not crowd each other out. They sit at the same table. Find a man who respects you. Marry him. Make a home that smells like bread. Have children if you are given them. Tell them about me. Tell them my name. Birgitta. It means strength. Use it well. Remember what I told you. The earth will hold you. The Lord will hold you. My love will hold you. Forever. Mama. Astrid read it twice. She read it 3 times. Emil was already asleep beside her, curled toward her, his glasses on the bedside table, his breath even. She did not wake him. She held the letter against her chest. She lay back on the pillow. She looked up at the timbered ceiling. She said, Mama. She said, I am free. She said, I am loved. She said, thank you. Then she slept, the deepest sleep of her life. The years went on, 4 children, 3 girls, 1 boy. She named the youngest girl Birgitta. She told them about their grandmother every winter, around the stove, as the snow came down, as the dugout held warm. She told them about Mrs. Helga. She told them about Henrik, who came to dinner every Sunday for decades, who became another grandfather to her children. She told them about Klaus, whose daughter Matilda grew up to be a midwife. She told them about Reverend Whitfield, who came back from Boston after several years away, quieter, smaller, better, who served the settlement until he died at 70. She told them about Linnea, who became a teacher. She told them all the names. She told them every name, because names are the way the dead stay alive. In 1927, Astrid was 67. She stood on the hillside above the dugout, the wind in her white hair, her hand on a cane she had finally agreed to carry. The dugout was still there. Her youngest daughter, Birgitta, lived in it now, in her 40s, 3 of her own children. The grandchildren ran in and out of the door. Astrid had measured the inside that morning, about 50 degrees with no fire. The earth was the same. The earth had not changed. Half a century it had held a temperature. Half a century. Her body was old now. Her mind was not. Her mind was sharper than it had ever been. She thought about her mother. She thought about Mrs. Helga. She thought about Hilda, long dead now, buried beside her mother. She thought about Henrik, buried 2 years earlier, 91 years old, surrounded by Astrid's grandchildren, who had called him uncle, who had loved him, who had cried at his funeral. She thought about Klaus. He had passed 2 winters before, in his 90s, still in his stone house at the end, with the wooden wall inside. She thought about Emil, asleep in the new house up the hill, old now, sleeping more these days, letting her come out here alone. She thought, I have lived a life. I have lived a whole, long life. She held her mother's Bible. She had carried it, every day, for half a century and more. The leather was almost gone, the pages soft as cloth. She opened it, to this back. She tucked a photograph into the back, behind the last page, where her mother's letter still lay. The photograph was new, from a photographer in Yankton, taken the previous week. 4 generations of women, a sketch of Birgitta, done from memory by Hilda's daughter long ago, a small daguerreotype of Mrs. Helga, Astrid herself, her daughter Birgitta, steady-eyed, the same age her mother had been when she died. She set the photograph in, closed the Bible. She held it against her chest. She looked down at the dugout, the chimney smoking gently, a grandchild in the doorway, 3 years old, calling something to her in Swedish. Astrid raised her hand. She said softly, to her mother, to all the mothers, I lived well. She said it again. Mama, I lived well. The wind moved the grass. The grass moved like a hand. What Astrid Lindqvist built was not a house. It was an ark, for the women who came after her, for the children who needed shelter, for the men who needed to kneel, for the broken who needed to be forgiven, for the forgiver who needed to be set free. She was 16 years old when she started. She did not finish. The ark is never finished. It is still being built. By every woman who opens a door to a child in a storm, by every father who kneels before his daughter, by every minister who admits he was wrong, by every soul who forgives someone who does not deserve it, by everyone who finally forgives the hardest person to forgive of all, the one in the mirror. The earth will hold you. The Lord will hold you. Love will hold you forever. The end.